everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Yeah, We Read It. My name is Laura Petro, and I'm one of your hosts.
My name is Meggie Gates, and I'm your other host.
And we're best friends and podcast hosts, and you've caught us in the 3/4 of the way through mark of Scott Westerfeld's Uglies trilogy that has 4 books in it.
That is true. We are tackling the Uglies thruple.
Yes.
And boy, is it a thruple to dissect very well.
And a thruple with 4 books.
A thruple, a polyamorous thruple, if you will.
We are on part 2 of specials right now.
Yes.
And, oh my god, wow, this book moves so fast. Like, parts of the last few books have moved quickly, but, like, not quite as much as, like, things are just happening now.
Oh, absolutely.
With purpose, but boy, is it a whirlwind.
Like, there is only one action scene that I disassociated in so far in this book, and that is a better batting average
for you?
than the other
Yeah,
ones.
absolutely.
I know.
Oh my gosh, so we left off, this already feels like it was a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
We left off with them destroying the armory that had all of the weapons from the past 4 centuries in it.
Exactly.
And
you know that one. There was the self-operating farm machine.
It was the 30 pages of just like, what the fuck is going on here?
The silver goo?
The silver goo.
Yeah. Everything happened. It was wild.
It was wild, but now we're here. We're at the little river in New Pretty Town. Zane and his other crim friends are gathered to go find the new smoke, like Shay and Tally have lured him into agreeing to.
And they are hoverboarding out there, and they have this little plan where they have their interface rings connected to balloons. So they're going to let the balloons go.
Yes.
And in special circumstances, will be like, this is where they are.
And all of the other pretties in New Pretty Town kind of help them out. Like, a bunch of other pretties are tying their interface rings to balloons. Scott Westerfeld loves balloon motifs.
This is true. We have
this
the hot air
is the
balloons.
second time. But we're not mad. And also, it should be noticed that Paris is going along this time.
I know.
And that's really the only time he's mentioned in this second part.
It is so funny. For how big of a role I thought he was going to play.
Right?
Nothing.
Book 1, Paris was Tally's best friend, and we were like, okay, he's going to be important. And boy, is he not.
The Crims aren't in on Tally chasing Zane, though, right? They don't know that they're being tracked.
No, I think Zane, is figuring that, but I don't think the other pretties have kind of, or Crims are kind of, with it. I think they're just, I don't know.
So they are going into the woods, and they are basically as clueless as you could expect very vapid, pretty people to be when it comes to camping.
Look, imagine this. You've been brainwashed.
Okay,
you just have taken medication that unbrainwashes you.
I'm listening.
And now you need to escape the city into a wild that you've never been before. And one of the people you are with is brain damaged.
Okay, do I get a map?
No.
All right, you lost me.
Exactly. Hard. It'd be so hard.
They did bring 60 days of self-heating meals, though, and trigger warning, Spag Bowl is on their trip.
Oh, Spag Bowl. We love it. There's an Uglies restaurant.
They're gonna be so fucking useless and stupid in the woods. I can't wait.
Oh my gosh. Well, they do their best.
They do.
They do. And Shay and Tally are tracking them the old-fashioned way.
And before Zane and the Crims kind of go off on their own, very heartwarming moment where, Zane is talking to Tally and is like, you can still change yourself. And Tally's like, I don't know. And Zane basically indicates, oh, well, I'm not going to be pinging you guys when I get there. You know that, right?
Yeah. And, we're going to say it now because it's going to come up sporadically throughout this episode. Trigger warning, more self-harm. Cutters be cutting still.
This is true.
This is true. Because another thing, before, as Zane's like, Tally, you can change. She's like, he just doesn't understand cutting like I do. And I'm like, okay, girl.
Oh, she says it there?
Yeah.
So the Crims are carrying their hoverboards to the river, and Tally and Shay are kind of camping nearby. Shay is skipping stones by herself.
That sounds like Shay.
She has no competition.
This bitch loves to skip stones.
I think Tally's like, who's your competition? She's like, Mother Nature. And it's like, okay, take a calm.
Well, and we also know that the Cutters, they're just intense people. They're so intense.
They are so intense.
They're so intense.
I have diagnosed the Cutters. Would you like to hear my diagnosis?
Yes, I'm a patient and representing the Cutters. I would love to hear the diagnosis.
Hello, Cutter number 4.
Thank you.
Not
Thank you for having
1.
me.
Sorry. You have been cut from the casting of the first 3.
Okay.
I think that you have undiagnosed narcissism and also mania.
I'm gonna be honest.
No depression to humble them.
I can see it.
They are egotistical god complexes.
Oh my god, they have such a complex because they think they're better than everybody. They get mad when they're challenged by the smallest thing. Like, everything that challenges them is a personal attack.
Straight up, if a pigeon were to, like, flap at them on the street, I think they would kill them.
Yeah.
I can confidently say it.
Exactly. And, like, and even Tally, as we get into this, like, following the pretties, like, and we're seeing this through these, like, her eyes, she just thinks they're so incompetent. She's like, well, I have to go fix this myself. And it's like, Tally, this isn't about you.
I know, Miss Type A Queen.
Oh my god, she never used to be like this.
So Tally's worried about her boyfriend.
Yeah.
So she goes to check on him and sees they met up with someone.
Uh-oh, and this was, honestly, first big twist of this, like, new part, where I was like, who's it gonna be? I am mad that I did not see this coming, because I was like, oh my god, who is it?
I had an idea.
Yeah.
Listeners, you probably think it's a hot, sexy Bumble date. No. It's Andrew Smith.
Which is basically a hot, sexy Bumble date, let's be true.
The himbo of our dreams.
We love him, our little wood boy.
Wood boy.
And we find out, like, Tally sneaks up on him in her little sneak suit. She's like, I'm gonna get him. But his senses are also really good from just, like, years in the wild. That he, like, hears her behind him and he's like, you're special, what are you here? And then Tally's like, surprise, it's me! And takes off her special sneak suit.
I do love when he's like, oh, Seychelles, which is like their like slur for the specials. I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was their word for the specials.
She said it was like a really hate-filled word, so I was like, okay. And he was like, why do you look like a special? And she was like, oh, so I can track my boyfriend. And I fucking love him just clocking her ass like, oh, your boyfriend?
Yeah.
As if it's all in her head.
I know, and she's like, these scars on my hands, those are for Zane.
I know!
And I'm like, Tally, what the fuck? But then we learn a big thing. Andrew beat the little dolls in the trees that would stop people from, like, leaving his reservation. He just burned them.
Yeah, I love that he started with magic and then full-on went out with a forest fire, which, hey, he did his best.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm gonna question it. How did nobody before him think, what if I just burned all of these trees down that have these little dolls in them? How was he the first person to come up with that? Because I feel like fire would probably be in, like, the top 3 things you think to do, you know?
They've probably been in that, like, reservation camp, too, for years.
I mean, yeah, he said his dad died and then his grandfather died before him. So it's like, that's, like, decades and decades of people in that reservation. And nobody said, what if I burned this down?
It's kind of like those people from your hometown who stay in your hometown.
Yeah. And nobody thinks to burn it down.
At least they have free will. But this, like, sim modification game,
yeah.
they don't really have to.
Yeah, where's the Sims pack that is this reservation that's surrounded by dolls that trap them in?
God, I don't know.
But anyway, they're talking, and Andrew's like, I'm friends with the new Smoke, which is another big twist.
And she's like, okay, well, my stupid, silly brain, I forgot how to get to the new Smoke. And he's very on edge. She's like, no,
yeah, he's like, well, I'm here as a guide. And he's like, I just give out trackers to all the city kids that are trying to find the new Smoke. And she's like, can I have a tracker? And he's like, well, what's the magic word? And she's like, rats, foils.
I gotta go back to New Pretty Town. But she does get the tracker because he's like, okay, well, you know, you did kind of help me out a little bit.
Yeah, he says he trusts her, which I was like, Andrew, you're so naive and so sexy. Please don't.
Yeah, to gain his trust, too, is when she shows him the scars that she cut herself to prove her love for Zane.
Yeah.
And this is where I realized, like, oh man, they got her, like, fucked up. Like, I feel like being a special is solely, like I said, my diagnostic. Because she's just, like, so detached and so sociopathic. That is when I, like, really felt for her.
Yeah.
It was like, you have no true understanding of, like, love.
Well, yeah, and it's like, that is something that's so interesting about reading these books is, you know, Scott Westerfeld has created a character that has changed so much against her own free will.
I know.
And we're still able to empathize with her, but while also disliking her and wanting her to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So well done. Oh my gosh.
And okay, so pay attention, guys. You might not have been expecting this, but guess who's pissed off again? Shay.
Yep, Shay's big thing is the special. She's always fucking pissed off.
That's true.
Shay's always angry. Shay has like Shay's god complex. I think is like a lot more controlling because she's in charge. So she has a very big controlling issue, which is honestly terrifying and toxic.
And super toxic.
And, you know, she loves to gaslight, and, you know, Tally's like, I have a position finder, and she's like, cool, let's go now. And Tally's like, I can't. I have to stay and follow Zane to make sure he's okay. And then Shay gaslights her to be like, you're a terrible person, Tally.
Yeah, and that, like, the deep cut. And also, at this point, this is where I have a theory, because Shay's like, you don't care about Fausto, do you? Which makes me think they're fucking on the side.
And I didn't even think about that. I feel like, as we discussed in our fan theory, the Cutters just have a bunch of sex parties.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Shay and Fausto have to be fucking.
That's true.
Let's tweet at Scott Westerfeld, ask him, hey, are Shay and Fausto, like, fucking?
Can you confirm this fan theory? That's actually not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. But... Oh my god.
Cute.
Are we flirting? What?
No, you go.
I was gonna say, they decide to split up. I was going next plot point.
That's fair.
What were you gonna say?
Thank you for attention back on me. Well, I was going to say, this is where, like, I really legitimately, like, empathized and, like, loved his portrayal of self-harm, because, like, to clear her mind, this is where Shay goes off and she cuts to stay icy. And I feel like they got, like, cutting right, because, like, when I'm in situations where I'm extremely anxious and can't think, I do that. And, like, it really rounded out the arc in this one to make it less like a glamorous thing. Like, in Pretty's and more a means of survival and dealing with stress, which made me find it more relatable.
Yeah.
Because that's such an anxious thing like I do. And I was like, oh, and then, I mean, Tally does it, like, later on, too, to deal with trauma.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, you know what, Scott Westerfeld, you rounded it out. You came around with it. So
yeah, and I think, honestly, that's just since the tone of Pretty's was so rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
And Tally was pretty, and we were looking at cutting through her pretty eyes.
Yeah.
That's why we saw it this way. And now that we're looking at things through special eyes, like, we see it this way, which is, like, so well done.
That is true. It's
right?
like a more intense understanding of such a hard topic.
Exactly. And that's why it's like I'm thinking more and more about this book. I'm like, this is like series is just so well done, because like I keep saying, we've changed the POV and the lens almost seamlessly. Like, yeah. And like that's even like the thing when we talk about like the gaslighting of Shay and how Shay's like warping and changing the events that have happened in the past 2 books. That didn't happen that way, and we never address it, because that's what it's supposed to be.
She pretty much stayed online for her character arc, too, because I didn't really realize until the end of this act that, like, she went through the same amount of brainwashing as Tally.
Exactly, and, like, that's why it's, like, she has such a good arc, because, like, this is Tally's story, but we kind of forget that Shay is also, her brain is so warped, and that is why she is this way. She is not this horrible, vengeful person, but she is trained to be that.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, they split up.
Anyway, so redirecting this conversation, they split up. And Tally is doing this insane thing where she's sleeping every 10 minutes.
She has an internal alarm that she like sets in her brain that like pings every 10 minutes. So she's just taking like little cat naps and then being like, I'm awake. And then she falls back asleep and then it's like, I'm awake.
I imagine it is like making a brownie in an easy bake oven. And
that's
I don't know why. I assume it takes 10 minutes.
I would love to walk into Special Circumstances and they lay out the blueprint for what goes on in like Upper Special's brain, and it just is a diagram of an easy bake oven.
They're like, okay, this is how we count the hours. Every 10 minutes we bake a brownie in the easy bake oven.
And they're like, and here's the powder, the packet for the sugar cookies. And they're like, what does that do? And they're like, it makes sugar cookies.
So while Tally is measuring her sleep in increments of easy bake ovens, to protect the Crims, she wakes up in the dead of night to realize, these silly gooses, they left their hoverboards charging so the lights can be seen by special circumstances above.
Yeah, she, like, hears on her interface that, like, you know, there's more hover cars, and she's like, these people are going to be found because their hoverboards are out.
Yeah.
I'm going to take matters into my own hands and put on my little sneak suit like I do. Yep. I'm going to go hide these boards for my boyfriend and his pretty little friends.
But Zane can sense her presence, so he's like, hey, he just shouts it out into the woods. He's like, hello? And
hello.
She panics and puts him to sleep with her little ring that punctures people.
She pricks him.
I know. And we must applaud Tally for this because, hey, haven't we always wanted to respond to a man this way, just knocking him out when he approaches us at a bar?
Meggie, I'm gonna be honest. No.
That is fair.
And everybody's entitled to their own opinion, listeners.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ladies? No,
ladies.
But Zane, like, he sleeps in the next day, and, you know, the pretties are kind of with it now. They've learned to travel at night, sleep during the day.
And during this time, too, Tally has, like, had time to self-reflect, and I think page 172 in my book really kind of summarized, like, the whole book of, like, oh, okay, I feel bad for Tally, but she says, ever since Dr. Cable had recruited her, other people had made most of Tally's choices for her. Mm-hmm. Someone was always forcing her to join their side in the conflict between the Smokies and the city. Her only real decisions so far had been staying ugly in the Old Smoke, which hadn't worked out at all, escaping from New Pretty Town with Zane, ditto, and splitting up with Shay to protect Zane. Not great so far. Everything else had happened because of threats, accidents, lesions in her brain, and surgery changing her mind for her. So she really just is a victim of fate.
Yeah, it's like she's really just a product of the society she is in trying to change her.
Yeah.
Which is harsh. She's still like, 17, maybe 18 at this point?
She's
like,
so much therapy.
Oh my god, so much therapy. And also, like, while she's doing that, I remember she's also, like, grappling with, like, the feelings of loneliness now.
Yeah.
Which is, like, also just, like, really, like, sad, because I think also her brain has changed so much that she has to, like, really think about what it's like to not be surrounded by people telling her what to do. And she's finally, like, doing this journey with Zane on her own accord, so it's, like, her kind of registering what it's like to be, like, alone in the wilderness, doing something for yourself.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Oh, for sure. And so, the Crims make another mistake. There's a stone on one of their hoverboards, and the stone kind of rolls off, so the hoverboards are very lightweight, so Tally's like, shit, it's gonna fly away.
In my own hands. And, so she creeps up in her little sneak suit. She does a lot of crawling in this book.
Yes, she does.
I wrote that down, like, by the next, like, 30 pages. I was like, this girl crawls like nobody's business.
Like no one's business.
But she's like, oh, these stupid little pretties, let me fix it. And she, like, goes to put the rock back on. Then she's like, wait a minute. This board is tied into a stake in the ground. Also, who put this book next to it? And the book's, like, pages are just, like, flying all willy-nilly about. And then she's like, oh, it's a trap. And then Zane's like, hey. And he's there.
Yes, Zane, who now I cannot picture as anyone but Cole Sprouse, is like...
yes, I won that battle.
Yeah, you definitely did.
Hell yeah.
He's like, the wild is changing you, isn't it? You're out here protecting me instead of betraying me. And she's like, okay, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong.
She's like, and I think, and of course, Tally in her special head is like mad that Zane is right. She's like, it is changing me, but I don't want to tell you that.
But this is kind of like where she breaks down and is like, I don't know what I am anymore.
Yeah. And like, it's kind of like that feelings of loneliness, and now that she has this person that she loves to finally confide in.
Yeah.
She just kind of is vulnerable, and they kiss.
They do, and I mean, it's not like forced in a bad way, but like he definitely like holds her and is like, this part is still in you. Like you're just you're repulsed by me shaking.
Yeah,
which I have terrible hand tremors. Shit, she would find me repulsive. I guess.
Well, and I think that's also just like her mood shifts so much. And first Tally's like in it, and then like her brain kind of shifts, and she's like repulsed and revolted by her partner. And she is filled with so much rage and disgust that she starts to feel a bile coming up in her throat. And then she turns on her sneak suit pricks and slices his hands and runs away, which is insane.
She puked after a kiss.
And then she runs into the ocean and jumps in there.
I puked after sucking dick. Who had it worse?
Zane?
No, oh yeah, that's true. He is the biggest victim here. I do love how dramatic she is here, but I also really love this conversation for one little snippet that we had, is that he finally makes her realize that it's not about his brain damage, it's about hers.
Yeah.
She has brain damage.
Exactly, but she doesn't want to admit that she has brain damage.
Exactly.
Because she's so brainwashed.
Yes.
She's brainwashed to not want to believe that she's brainwashed.
Yes, and while she's like down in this ravine, this little ocean, she finds a human bone nearby.
Yeah.
And is like, oh no, what if those are other warriors from Andrew's town? I mean, she's going through it. She's also wondering if Zane's gonna give up on her because she puked after a kiss, and is not worried, like, does he find me repulsive? Does he think I find him repulsive? Is like, damn, is he gonna think I'm weak? Calm down. It's okay.
It's a weird emotional grapple that she's going through. Yeah, honestly, Homegirl's going through it.
She is.
Okay, but then we kind of fast forward. We're at the end of this 2-week journey.
Yes.
And she's crawling a lot. They're at the final destination. She sees a pile of dead fish bones.
And she's like, oh shit, the other warriors in Andrew Smith's town got out. And then she feels like 14 bodies, like infrared, coming up. Only 2 of them are wearing skins, and the other are like runaway pretties.
Yeah.
And they're all about to board this helicopter that the Rangers just touched down on to go to the new place.
The new smoke. We're like, oh my god, we're there. And she's like, oh my god, I need to follow this helicopter, but I can't on my hoverboard because then they're gonna see me.
I laughed so hard visualizing this.
It's so funny.
This is like another one where I kind of blacked out, but they put all 20 runaways in the helicopter, and Tally's like, I need to get on this helicopter. So she tries once, and like just as her crash bracelets are about to lock onto the helicopter's underbelly, they like whip to the left, and she goes flying through the air like how I imagined it, someone ejected from Among Us.
That's so funny.
Thank you.
That's so good. And I can honestly see it, because like, yeah, it's her trying to like get under the underbelly of this helicopter, and she's even like, my hoverboard will go fast, but if it overheats and explodes, it overheats and explodes, and then I will fall.
And the whole time she's like, Zane, this boy I barely like, I must do it for him. And so her board is like overheating at this point a little bit.
And I keep picturing, you know, when like a MacBook overheats and you have the fan.
Oh my god, yes!
I just pictured like the fans in this hoverboard just making that whirring sound.
And she'll like check it and be like, maybe this is when I should stop, because there's like white embers coming
Yeah,
up from it.
her infrared can see just like the whiteness of it. It's heating the F up.
And so she's like flying in the air like a little Among Us guy ejected, and she is like, no, I gotta get it back on my hoverboard. So she like grabs it with her hands and they just burn.
Yeah, and she loses the hoverboard. Like, bye-bye, hoverboard.
But somehow the crash bracelets do get her attached to the underbelly of the airplane. I don't get how she gets onto the cargo part, but I just imagine her flying.
Yeah, with her by her little wrist.
She's held onto the airplane by her little wrist.
That's how I feel it too. And God, crash bracelets sound so painful, especially because now Special Tally is using them to their limits. Like, she is really testing how well these crash bracelets will work. They keep jolting her body all sorts of ways.
Oh yeah, Scott Westerfield was like, let's put the pedal to the metal when it comes to self-harm on this
Crash bracelets, let's go!
I feel like Tally just doesn't care about her arms at all at this point.
I mean, honestly, I feel like in her brainwashed brain, she's like, I'm indestructible. So she will just do anything.
I felt that in high school when I was reading Edgar Allan Poe, so hey. Here we are. Okay, so let's get back into it. They pass a landing, and lo and behold, the new smoke is there. She pulls up to it, and vibe check, it's an entire fucking city.
It's an entire huge city. Very reminiscent of hers. She's like, I recognize, this is the dormitories. This is this place. This is that place. This looks so similar to my town.
Yeah, so let's get into some scene painting, because it's a big city, and citizens talk back to Tally, which she does not like.
I know, Tally's on the slide walk, which I imagine is one of those, moving conveyor belts.
Escalators in
the
an airport. Yep.
You get me.
Mm-hmm.
And she, falls, and this middle pretty's like, hey, kiddo, what are you doing? You can't just be doing that. You should be with the rest of the people who just flew in.
She's like, shut the fuck up, old man. Next
time
I'm gonna
and
fall
he goes,
on you.
Yeah, and she, reveals her special self, and he goes, okay, you're funny. And she's like, and she gets so pissed because this guy isn't afraid of her. He's just like, oh, this dumb kid. Well, on my way. Like, that's literally the scene.
And like Laura said, the city's not too different from where she grew up. There's hovering party towers, government buildings, sprawling mansions, but there isn't a river between Uglyville and Pretty Town. So this is like a culture shock to Tally because it's diverse. Yeah. People have different skin colors, uglies hang out with pretties, and you can change the way you look. So basically, like, this new Pretty Town is sort of like a character selection every day. Yeah. You can change your avatar. They are called avatars, basically.
Yeah, and it's basically like the biggest culture shock I think that we've seen Tally have in this book, because she's like, this is just my city, but yet here it's so different because these people, they don't do costume surge. At one point, she's like walking around taking in the sights, and she's like, cliques and clans, like they all like look the same, and people change their appearance. Some pretties keep the lesions because they just want to have them, and other pretties don't, and some people just stay ugly because that's what they prefer. At one point on page 227 in my book, people have snakes as pinky fingers.
I was confused.
Did they mean real snakes?
You know, I don't know, but I also got that I feel like you can have anything, because I feel like at some point someone has fur.
Yeah, people have like feathers and fur.
And it's not like you can, mingle outside of like whatever group that you have. And it's very interesting because she also hears people, quote, squabbling with different opinions. Yeah. Which is exciting. It's like a very intellectual, progressive town.
Yeah, and this town is called Diego, which makes me wonder, is it San Diego? And this is when I also realized Tally City doesn't have a name.
No, it's just New Pretty Town.
Yeah, and in Uglyville, but it's like, what is the name of the city?
That is true. Yeah. And she runs into this person who's, oh god, it sucks, not afraid of her again. And they're like, oh, there's a party for new little losers like you at the Overlook tonight. Oh, by the way, ciao. They just don't care.
Yeah, this girl like doesn't care. So Tally's like, fine, I'll go to the party, and stomps on up to the party. Yeah, at least I picture her stomping.
Yeah, we imagine her stomping with a big old diaper on. Yeah, she's an adult.
She's toddler. A little baby. Yeah,
a little baby.
So she's at this place called the Overlook. I'm pretty sure that was the name.
Yeah, it's the Overlook.
Great. And she's at this party, and everyone's like, oh, wow, can't believe we all escaped. This place is really cool.
She runs into this guy named John, who's like, why do you look so weird? Don't worry, you'll get fashion soon.
Yeah, and she's like, you think I look stupid? He's like, yeah, it's a little dorky, but like, who am I to judge?
And she's like, grr, and flashes her teeth, and he's like, aw, cute.
He's like, okay, I would have waited a week before getting all that, but...
He's like, don't worry, there's an Uggo here who looks exactly like you.
And then that's when, dun dun dun, our favorite character shows up. Fausto's at this little party.
Yeah, I do kind of like that we've just projected him as our favorite character for seemingly kind of no reason.
I mean, he did remodel all of the hoverboards and pretties. That was really cool.
He hasn't really talked at all.
I love Fausto. He is our favorite character.
And Fausto's like, aha, yes, I still look the same, but I'm different.
And so Tally goes over to Fausto, and she's like, what the hell is going on? And boy, do we get a lot of information all at once.
He told Maddie to change him, and it seems like mostly they look the same. They still got, I think, the black eyes, the sharp teeth, but they have empathy.
Yeah, so like we learned that this city has no special circumstances, and we learned that Fausto pretty much gave himself up at the end of Pretties. He didn't get captured. He was like, cool, I'm gonna hang back, get captured, and you're gonna test your new cure on me as a special, and let's have some fun.
Exactly, and she's kind of pissed about this, and this is where we get like a lot of insight on when Tally is like, I am done as a special, but she's mad that he let them experiment after all the shit with Zane. Yeah. But he's like, it's okay, come with us, it'll be okay, like we can change you too, and she's like, no, and then... Oh, terrible timing. A ton of Smokies attack her with bows and arrows.
Yeah, well, Fausto's going to, like, and he has, like, a little, almost like his own little ring pricker. He's going to do it, and Tally and him just, like, hall brawl it out in the middle of this party, and then all of the Smokies are attacking her, too, and she's like, I'm outnumbered! And so,
She just throws herself off the building.
Which is dramatic. Oh my god.
Again, she's fucking...
so dramatic.
Kissing and jumping off cliffs.
Yeah, and she's, jumping off the side of a building now.
With no hoverboard or bungee jacket.
Yeah, and she's literally like, I would rather die than be captured by these people who are trying to help me.
She really said bye to her arm sockets in this part.
Yeah, so she's just, like, relying on her crash bracelets, which do catch her, but truly almost rip her arms out of her sockets. It was painful.
I think that was one of the worst.
Reading this scene.
Yeah, that was one of the worst sections.
Because, Scott Westerfeld describes how she was just unable to, like, even make fists with her hands after.
But yet she starts climbing a tree to escape after. I don't know how she's doing it.
Well, she's a special. She can do anything.
That is true. She's, like, luckily there's repair nanos in her body that repair her shoulders. So, is this a little bit why the cutters are different than special circumstances? Do they have those?
I think all specials have
that.
I think specials, like cutters, I think their lesions are a little bit different.
Okay, that's
at least how I interpret it. But she's like hiding in this tree, limp as a biscuit.
Limp as a biscuit, our little limp biscuit.
She's in the tree. The people are looking for her, and somebody sees, like, we see her suit has ripped, and it's just hot white because there's a bunch of little nanos trying to fix her little body.
And who I would love to be, whoever David's nameless girlfriend is like, I can see, and it's not a squirrel. And David's like, are you sure? And then they suspiciously run off. They're scattered by a group of people.
They're like, we have to go. They're coming. And Tally's like, oh, who is coming? And then it's the wardens. This is seemingly still a police state. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they're bad. No,
because they're like, welcome to immigrants, but also Tally's kind of like a different case where she is a soldier.
So Tally falls out of the tree. Wardens surround her. I'm picturing, and like when I picture these wardens running around this like area, I pictured the scene in Lion King when all the wildebeests are running. Like I picture like 20s of them.
Okay, yeah.
Like I picture like lots of them for some reason, and I don't think that's the case. But in my head, I'm like, there was 100 wardens running out right now.
I felt like there were 6.
That's fair. We'll split the difference. Okay. So there's about 53.
There's 53 wardens. There's 30 to 50 feral wardens.
And she falls out of the tree, and she's like, oh, these people are going to help me because they're the city officials. And they're like, we got her. And she wakes up in a padded cell. And
is she pissed. She starts punching walls like she's my ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, and there's, the room is really pretty though. It's like a pretty padded cell.
And they say they're keeping her under observed control because her whole body is literally a weapon.
Yeah.
Like she is a threat to this new village.
Yeah, they basically admit, they're like, your surgery is not approved here. You are literally, you've been constructed to be a weapon. You are a danger to yourself and the people around you.
And she just starts punching walls again like she's my ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, chill. You know what? We're just going to alter your body. You can keep your little fucked up superiority complex if you want. And she's like, no, what about consent? And they're like, dude, our cities are literally at war and you're trying to kill us. No?
Yeah.
Hasn't she heard of, like, prisoners of war? This is like Guantanamo Bay.
Well, we don't know that they're at war yet.
Read a book, Tally. read about Guantanamo Bay.
Okay, but we don't know they're at war yet. But we know that this surgery, like the way Tally's body is not kosher in this city. So they're like, we legally can't have you here with your body. We're changing you.
Yeah. So her response to them continuously talking to her with a therapeutic voice is to just keep punching the wall until they're like, okay, we have to knock this bitch out.
She keeps punching the wall, being like, someone's gonna come in here, and they basically just tranquilize her, knock her the fuck out. And then she's basically under surgery, brain. We kind of are...
anesthetic. It's like, imagine you telling your point of view after getting your wisdom teeth out in a book. We get like 4 pages of that. It's very fun.
Yeah. So she's like under, anesthetic. She's still like half conscious. Her little timer is still going off in her head, her little nap timer.
Like, what's that? And in like the brief moments of consciousness she has, she pings Shay with her skin tendons, like, please help me.
Yeah, Shay finds her, and Shay's like, oh my god, I'm coming for you. Hold on a second. And then when Tally, like, wakes up, Shay's sitting at the edge of the bed. Doctors are knocked out, and Shay's like, thank god I found you. Let's go.
And so they get her out, but Another moment that is very important, Shay's been there for a while, and Shay's also, just like Fausto, been despecialized. And so at this point, Tally's having, like, a full-blown freak out.
And Tally's thinking, like, there's these alarms going off, and Tally's like, they're after us. And they get to, like, the roof of the building, and big reveal, the alarms weren't to chase them. The alarms were evacuate.
Yeah.
Because this is when we learned, like, the city is under war.
Mm-hmm.
And Shay's like, I'm not a special anymore. None of the Cutters are special anymore. We've all changed, but we need to use you the way you are now. And that's why I needed to get you out of that surgery. Not because I wanted to help you. That'll happen later. I need you to help us fix this mess that... She was like, we did this. And I was like, Shay, this was your idea.
I imagine them, like, looking to the horizon because she's like, we have no time. They're here now. As, like, special circumstances, armed forces are, like, coming in.
Yeah.
Because them blowing up the armory, they really think it's this town.
Yeah, Dr. Cable was like, yep, it's gonna be this town. And I honestly don't know if Dr. Cable's just using her own, like, power complex to just be like, I want to declare war on somebody. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, God, honestly, who knows? And I also don't really know how she found the town. So I hope that that's kind of, like, figured out.
Yeah, I imagine, like, other cities have ways to communicate with each other. But, boy, that's, like, we literally, like, leave off with, like, them looking at the horizon and, like, the force field is being broken.
I know.
And shit's about to go the fuck down.
So that's where part 2 ends.
Yeah, Tally is the only special left in this new town, and she has to stay that way.
And you might not have seen this one coming, but she's gonna get used again.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and we also don't know where Zane is yet.
Oh, yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Leslie saw him going to town hall.
Yeah.
Weird.
I hope he's okay. We're gonna find out. Could you imagine if we just never hear from Zane again? Like, this book being so well done and very good at, like, having no holes in it. There's just like, wait a minute, what happened to Zane?
That would be so wacky.
Wow. Okay, but before we wrap this episode up, we gotta do our top 5.
And we are very, very excited about this top 5 because it's kind of silly.
We love to be silly. And also, honestly, a very pragmatic top 5. This is very applicable to a lot of people.
Listen up. If you're ever in a pickle, these might help you. It is the top 5 more appropriate responses to respond to someone when you kiss someone you don't like.
Exactly. So, and ladies and gentlemen and non-binaries, instead of vomiting, setting your sneak suit to stab them, and running into an ocean, here are some other ways to fix the issue of, I don't like this person I just kissed.
Alright, I'll start with number 5. Maybe I've spent a whole week watching my mom's soap operas. I say blame it on your evil twin.
Everybody has one. Everybody has one.
Have you ever heard of the Shadow Realm? Have you ever seen Jordan Peele's Us?
Literally,
everyone has one.
Anything can happen. And number 4, I'm gonna say it, bark at him. Never hurt anybody. He has a great story to go and tell his friends. Like, this girl, like, at me. Yeah, think about it. Honestly, fun for you, because you get to go home and be like, yo, I didn't like this person. I barked at him. He gets to go home being like, this girl barked at me.
A hysterical.
Good story all around. Nobody gets hurt. Everyone's just like, that was fun, or that was weird.
This one's feasible, one that I implement in a lot of situations. Number 3, say your zodiac signs do not align.
Which honestly, fair.
A Taurus and a Cancer?
Disgusting. No. I don't know anything about zodiac signs.
You know, I'm actually not sure about that one.
Oh, and this one's the one I usually do. For you folks at home that don't know a lot about astrology, tell them that there's somebody else.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'm seeing someone. But I know we just kissed, but nope, I can't. I'm seeing someone.
Exactly. Sometimes men can't respect boundaries unless it's someone else's property.
Weirdly, that I've been in that situation so many times.
Oh, God, we hate it.
Gross.
And number 1, pretty easy. Say you don't want to do this.
Using your words is so important.
It's true.
And if she just pulled off his name being like, just kidding, I thought I could do this, but I'm still special, and I think you're gross, I can't do this. I think he would have been like, rats.
Exactly.
Spoiled again. You're still as special.
Absolutely.
Wow. Great top 5. Might I add.
Great top 5.
We did that. We nailed it.
I would have to agree.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, listeners, that's going to be the end for this episode of Y'all Be Reddit.
Yeah.
We're going to start reading part 3. We will see you next week for it. We're excited to see how this wraps up. Oh my God.
I am so excited. I don't know. I mean, you said someone might die.
I think I remember somebody dying. I hope I'm right. I honestly could have been a different book. We're going to find out if I'm right or not. I read this book, I think, when I was in middle school. But yeah, damn. Okay, listeners. Agenda for you, now that you finished listening to this episode.
Yes.
1, rate and review and follow this podcast. If you can, that would be great. 2, follow us at Meggie and Laura on Instagram. 3, follow us at Yeah We Read It on TikTok and Twitter.
And Twitter. And want to end this one with a very special shout out to my friend Becky because she promoted our podcast on her podcast.
Oh my god, I had no idea. Becky, thank you.
But she has a podcast called Dead Horse, and it's about more under-discussed / forgotten film franchises, like the Spy Kids. Very in line with our brand. So check that out. It's very fun. Spy Kids 2 was my favorite movie growing up. She does a great in-depth discussion of that.
Oh my god, we love it. Absolutely, yeah. Go check out that podcast. And while you're at it, go check out Audio Mint and their other podcasts, because there's a bunch of cool ones on there too.
Yeah.
And that's going to be it for this episode of Yeah We Read It. Yeah, we'll see you all next week. Thank you guys for sticking with us.
Thank you guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
You were just listening to an Audio Mint podcast.